If government can protect kids from the sick radical left, shouldn't they also protect kids from hunger? Wouldn't it make sense to strengthen food stamps and have school lunch be free, since some kids are in school lunch debt? Well, I mean, if you are a parent, school lunches are not going to solve the problem of child hunger at any serious level. If you
Feeding people combats hunger. Genius. I mean, it's really not that complicated. There are just so many things wrong with what this dude just said. So let's go ahead and break it down. During 2020, the federal government made school lunches free. We know that little thing called the pandemic, COVID-19, which is not over yet. It's not over, despite what you hear some of maybe your favorite people say it's not over. We may be done with the pandemic, but baby, the pandemic is not done with us. But I digress. The effect of the free meals was really dramatic on the students and their families who needed those free meals. Parents, many of them facing layoffs, illnesses, and grief, no longer had to worry about the cost of lunch for their kids. However, that magnificent program expired back in June of 2022 because who needs to eat after the pandemic? Even though it's not over, I'm just using their words. But who needs to eat once the federal government has declared the pandemic over? Who needs to eat when these governors of these right-wing states have declared that the pandemic is over? Who needs to eat? Kids don't need to eat. They're just not hungry anymore after that. Oh, I sigh deeply. Congress had a chance to fix it. Democrats had the House, but they still let it expire. Did you hear me? The 117th Congress that you hear me talk about quite often. As per this headline from June of 2022. Here we go. A program that helps millions of hungry kids is about to expire. Inflation and supply chain issues are wreaking havoc on school lunches. Congress has 1 month to fix it. And guess what? They did not fix it. 30 million children rely on free school lunches. From 2018, take a look at this right here, the counter. 30 million children rely on free school lunch. Where do they eat when school is out? And Jessica, one of the things that, on the Sanders campaign, one of the programs that we had within our Thurgood Marshall plan, which is a very comprehensive plan about education, was that children would be able to get free lunch all year long. So it didn't matter if school was officially in or not, that there should be money set aside and programs out there so that children can get their breakfasts and their lunches all year long. Your thoughts?
I really appreciate what you said. We have this perverse obsession with complexity in policymaking. It's so weird. And it's gotten to the extreme that someone is saying food will not resolve hunger. That doesn't make any kind of logical sense. And really, them trying to persuade us that by giving students lunch now, we will have some kind of long-term economic implications that will be bad for us is ridiculous. It's unfounded. Of course, more food given out to folks will help resolve hunger. Of course, providing housing will address homelessness. It doesn't need to be made more complicated than that. And it's an excuse for them to do nothing in the short term or the long term, honestly. Of course, we can pool our resources together and provide lunch for students. There's no reason why we can't, but there's a reason why Ben Shapiro is saying what he's saying. And it's because people are more willing to have their labor exploited because they don't really have much of a choice when you're depriving them of their most basic needs. And of course, that's what corporations want. They want people to be willing to work for long hours and low wages and be so desperate that they'll do that. And that's why Ben Shapiro is paid very well by his corporate sponsors. Going hungry is their answer to hunger. They don't have an alternative approach that is good for the economy, and they're denying the obvious answer and making it seem like the problem's more complicated than it really is.
There it is. And by the way, Ben Shapiro is an idiot. Let me just put that out there as well.